Today I'm going to show you how to make our Swiss meringue buttercream. These are essentially the ingredients that you will need to make this. We have 15 egg yolks, 6 of those egg whites, meringue powder. We need about a teaspoon of that, but if you have cream of tartar, that works just as well. 1.5 cups of milk and an additional 1.5 cups of sugar. This is actually the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. This is called vanilla bean paste, and basically if you don't want to spend the time or the money to go get yourself some vanilla beans, it's actually very handy. It does cost 10 bucks a bottle, but if you know how much vanilla beans cost, then you're going to realize how quite a steal that is. And here we have 3 pounds of butter. This is actually purchased from Costco. It's just the cheap way to go, obviously, unless you know somewhere else to go for butter. But this is unsalted. It needs to be unsalted, otherwise it's not going to work. Just take my word for it. You need unsalted, not salted. Honestly, this is a huge recipe. This is enough. I mean, this is basically what we'd use to make a decent small size wedding cake. So, if you're just making a birthday cake or something like that, then I would go ahead and cut this recipe in thirds. And actually, I did miss something. You're going to need an additional cup of sugar on top of this sugar as well. So, and here we go. Alright, now we start off by adding about 1.5 cups of milk to our little saucepan here. Essentially, we just want to bring this up to a simmer. We really don't want this to boil. Now, at the same time, though, we do want to walk away a little bit, and we want to add that 1.5 cups of sugar to our 15 egg yolks. Now, give that a good whisk. A little tricky doing this with a camera in my hand. It's okay though. Now this is when we do the tempering part. You don't want to add too much milk because you don't want to curdle your eggs, but just a little bit there, and just kind of bring them up to temperature. It's all good. Alright, give that a quick stir. Alright, now back into the pan with it. You just got to keep an eye on it because you don't want the eggs to cook too much on the bottom, so you do have to keep kind of constantly moving it around until it comes up to a boil. It should only be a few minutes. Now after a few minutes, just letting this kind of cook on medium heat. You see it's nice and thick. It looks almost like a pudding. It looks exactly like vanilla pudding. To the sieve. Alright, this is where I add in my vanilla bean paste. That's it for the custard part. Now this next part, I basically, I call it laziness, but I set it in an ice bath. And basically I just kind of, keep stirring it every so often. I'll take it and go set it underneath the fan, and I go work on the meringue part. Alrighty, in our big mixer we have our 6 egg whites. If you don't have a big mixer, too bad. There we have our whisk attachment, where you get those going. We're going to bring that up to a frothiness, and then we're going to add in our teaspoon of meringue powder. And at the same time, over here, we have our 1 cup of sugar and about 6 tablespoons of water. Now we don't even touch this because we don't want a chance at crystallizing. We just kind of let it go. We're looking for basically a soft ball. Alright, got a good froth on the egg whites, so we add in our meringue powder or cream of tartar if that's what you're using. Now the next stage is we're going to bring this up to the soft peak. And that's where we're going to add in our 6 tablespoons of additional sugar. We have good soft peaks here. So now I'm going to add in my 6 tablespoons of sugar. that going again. Going all the way up to hard peak. Alright, looking good on the stiff peak. Let's turn it down. Alright, sugar looks pretty good. It's nice and thick. This part we gotta be fairly quick with. Just pour a little bit of sugar into the egg whites. And we give it a stir. And let's see the final amount of the syrup. That's good. And one more stir. Kind of just let that go. Now this is the part where we get ready to add our butter. I usually add them just about, one equivalent to one stick of butter at a time. And if you don't want to wait till room temperature for this butter, I usually just hit it in the microwave for 10-15 seconds. You don't want it to be all melty, but you want it to be nice and soft. Alrighty. And in goes the butter. Now very quickly it's going to look like this is actually breaking down. And say, don't be worried, don't get discouraged. That's just the way it is. You'll see it actually, like loses some of its meringuiness. But that's okay, it'll come together. Add in a final stick of butter. You'll see how nice and thick. The next stage is to add in that yummy custard. And that's when we go from a regular buttercream, or a regular meringue buttercream, to what's called a silk meringue buttercream. You gotta make sure it's nice and cool. You don't want to break apart the buttercream by melting the butter. That's gonna give it that yummy vanilla taste. And it's also going to give it a nice silky texture. Alright. And grab a spoon and take a quick taste. Yep, tastes pretty good. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this very complicated but very yummy Swiss meringue buttercream.